burial. We mentioned before graveside services. Natural burials usually tend to be a graveside service where you're not meeting at the funeral home, you're meeting at the natural cemetery. The hearse will set a hearse, they'll meet you there, we all walk back together, and a lot of times folks go back someplace, to a church or another local gathering place to have a memorial service. But this is kind of where popular graveside service is. Since the person's not embalmed, there's generally no viewing of any kind at the funeral home.
And the
timeline is quick.
And it's a little bit quicker, yes.
Generally, the timeline is fairly
Yeah.
quick when these happen, usually within 2 to 3 days of the person passing.
Grab this one.
There you go, George.
George, listen up.
That's your name on it.
Ryan is certified, has a special certification for burial at sea. Claire and I
do.
have never done that. We learned it in school and then we chose to forget that. Hopefully we don't get a lot of
We do
requests.
not do that.
Don't get any ideas, George.
Is that like 100 miles offshore? How does
So
that
for a casket, you have to be 2.5 miles offshore.
work? There you go.
And you have to be, obviously you can't be in a river, you have to be in an ocean. For cremains, you have to be 200 foot off a shoreline, and generally speaking, tidal waters. Hence why I said the Hudson River qualifies. The Hudson River is a tidal water body. So you can be spread in the Hudson River.
That's why you shouldn't go swimming in the Hudson River.
There you go. But burial at sea is another option, along with just being cremated or buried in a cemetery or your natural burial. It is one people don't generally think about, but it is possible. Generally, you will see a casket burial at sea with those who have a military status, such as the Navy. They do offer those for retirees from the Navy, those who have put in 20 years, or the Marines, Air Force, if you are on a ship of any sorts. Obviously, there's some regulations, qualifications, things like that. There's also a company that's located out of New York City, Florida, and off of Cape Cod that will work with your funeral director, and they provide a full ship as well as a place for the family to gather upon that ship for your burial at sea. So there are multiple ways to do it. Like I said, it's just another option. I like to put it in the PowerPoint just because it's something unique, it's different, and it may get your gears thinking of different things that you may not have thought about before or even heard of. But as I said, the biggest one around here would be cremains being scattered. I do know multiple people who have gone down to Long Island, Atlantic City, things like that. Maybe they vacationed there. Maybe they enjoyed Cape Cod. That's a big one. And then, like I said, right here we have the Hudson River. There's a lot of people, myself included. I enjoyed the boat up and down the Hudson River. So, a lot of people may be appealing to them. So, as I said, I like to put that in here for kind of a talking point.
Now, does the military have different rules than civilians?
The military, as far as what I talked about before, the military will provide for a lot of the honors and things like that for a burial at sea, but you have to be of a certain status to qualify. So you have to have a certain rank, a certain level, medals of distinction, things like that to qualify for them.
Because they could have thousands one time.
They could. Generally, when the military does them, they do have more than one that happen at a time. But like I said, it does depend on your status, your rank, and everything like that.
You do have cases where the cremains are in their little urn, and members of the family want portions.
Yes.
And that does happen, and that's fine.
Yep, oftentimes actually.
So,
In today's day and age, it's more common than most people even realize. You'll have a portion that the family will keep and a portion that they'll scatter somewhere as well. Okay, veterans. This is another slide we put in here. The reason for it is if there's a veteran in here, one, thank you for your service. Two, veterans are eligible for certain criteria when it comes to funerals, burials, things of that nature. This kind of shows a broad blanket of many different options. Obviously, right in the center, you have a casket draped at a graveside. Likewise, a couple of these pictures are from a national cemetery. Any eligible veteran who has been honorably discharged is eligible, and honorably discharged and has served 1 day of active duty is eligible to be buried in a national cemetery. National Cemetery will provide a spot for cremains or a casket, and likewise, they will provide it for your spouse as well, at no charge to you.
Wow.
You have to pay for the funeral, you have to pay for the casket or the urn, but they will provide the cemetery for you. That is kind of one of the things, you know, I know some people aren't happy with how veterans are treated. However, when it comes to death and dying, this is one of the things where they do step up and offer a lot.
And
Like
like national, like Saratoga National Cemetery.
Saratoga National. These 3 pictures on the left-hand side and the one on the right are from Saratoga National. And then there's Saratoga National up in Saratoga. There's Calverton National down on Long Island. There are also, I don't even know how many, across the country. Generally, they like to see you go to a cemetery that's close to your being. However, I have sent people to the National Cemetery in Hawaii because they like to visit there, and he was a veteran. So your options are out there for that. They do, as I said, with an honorable discharge, provide a man or a team of current military to fold the flag and play caps and present the flag to a family member. That is another thing they offer. Yes.
Since I already have reservations for the suites, can I cancel that and go to the military?
Call me up. We can arrange that.
I don't.
That's fine. But yes.
And if you don't want to be buried in a national cemetery, you can still, your family can still have a flag, have an honor guard at whatever cemetery you plan on being buried at. The Rhinebeck Cemetery actually has a veterans section. It's not a national cemetery, but it does have a veterans section where it's kind of right in front in the old section. But we can still have taps played, the flag folded, or even if your family just wants the flag and none of the ceremony, we can have a pre-folded flag ready for you. What the funeral home needs is your DD 214, and that's something that you can give us a copy of when you're doing pre-arrangements with us. Yep.
Since I already have plots at St. Paul's in Pleasant Valley, they do come and put a plaque on the back of your feet.
Yes.
That is, yep.
Yep,
So-
that's something that we can help order for you.
Yep.
Again, we need your DD
I already have
214.
that ready.
Okay, great to see.
But yes, you are eligible for what they call standard government grave marker. They come in different shapes and sizes, different looks, and those are eligible to be placed at the cemetery which you are residing. As you mentioned before, in the far right corner, that is not a military cemetery. That is just a regular cemetery that has a veterans section. Some cemeteries have that. You have to qualify with the VA, get a certain amount of plots allotted, things like that. So it's a little bit harder to get into those. However, if you have your own plot, you're welcome to all the honors as well as that grave marker as well.
One of I think some of the miscommunication, especially with veterans, folks come in and say, my father was a veteran, his funeral's paid for, right? Being of veteran status, traditionally, in majority cases, I would say 95 cases of veterans that walk through our door, no financial benefit is given. So it's a very, very fine criteria for a veteran to receive burial benefits. There are some, instances where you could get a plot, whether that be a natural cemetery or a local cemetery. The marker, all of those things are absolutely able, but a lot of times folks come in, that's one of the kind of the misconceptions of as a veteran. There's no financial really benefit to a veteran for just being a veteran for the most situations. So I just like to, express that because a lot of times
That's an important point.
people come in and say he was a veteran, where's the money to pay for everything, and that's not the case the majority of the time. But again, if that's something that we chat about before and you have those questions, we can absolutely kind of check eligibility and see if that would be something that would qualify to then assist your family when the time does come. But that is kind of one of the most, questions that we get asked as veterans kind of come in our door.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so you can customize your service however you like. I'll be honest, it's fun for me as a funeral director, the more customized it is. I don't know if these guys agree.
Yes.
From having, this is at Sweet's Funeral Home, from having, is that a Ghostbuster? Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Was the
Ghostbusters
size of this
flower.
screen as well.
Having trucks, I had a funeral a couple years ago. The guy collected and restored antique cars. Instead of a hearse, we put his casket in the back of one of his pickup trucks and brought it to the cemetery, things like that. So, you know, within the funeral home and even at the cemetery, we can really have what you want. So it's important for you to let us know what you would like. From the flowers to the type of bird you have, even to the casket. A lot of caskets are very, very customizable now.
I just, you know, us able to kind of have a conversation with you, find out your likes, your interests, a lot of times we can spark these ideas. We can, you know, from things that we've done in the past, we can kind of give you ideas on how to customize, and you can say, oh, no, I would like to keep it a little more traditional, or that sounds really nice, I think my family would appreciate that. And, you know, we've done a bunch of things. We've had motorcycles in our funeral home, you know, we've had caskets on the back of a tow truck. You know, there have been options, and nothing too crazy, yet nothing, you know, too original by any means. But part of that, in my opinion, is making your service personal as well. A lot of times, whether it be a church service here, a funeral home service, a graveside service, we're kind of walking through the motions. We're walking through the motions, it's not as personal, there's no personal touches, it's the same for each person. And it's important, you know, to be able to kind of express who that person was, whether that means, you know, family members speaking, having an opportunity to share a poem, things like that. These are all ways that we can personalize the service to make it more meaningful to the family, but then of course be able to celebrate the deceased, you know, and all that they were. One thing that I know I do a lot of at Burnett and White is tribute videos, so slideshows, memorial videos, things like that, that we can get very creative. That's one of the things I spend hours upon hours doing, but I enjoy it. Because when the family sees it, maybe it includes the voice of their loved one, right? To hear that voice and to see, you know, them playing with their grandchildren in some videos, and it's a beautiful culmination of kind of everyone being able to contribute to a video, right? And whether that plays, you know, at the service or whether you watch it, you know, a month from now. I have folks that watch the videos on anniversaries, and they, you know, send me a quick email and they're like, I'm watching this video again, it's absolutely amazing, and this is my 50th time watching it. And, you know, they'll never be able to, you know, thank me for, you know, giving them that. And it's just those types of things that you don't realize how meaningful can be, you know, to your family, or things like that, but are so personal, you know, to that person that adds to kind of that. Yeah.
Along that line of the videos, I just recently saw where there's the chips on the tombstone that you can scan, the RFID chip.
Yeah.
Oh, and you just go Rockland and do that?
No,
We're not there yet, so this
No.
is like a make-believe
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Okay, so now I know. But it looked like a great idea.
Exactly.
That gives her some homework.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen a headstone with it locally.
Yeah, but I mean, what a great idea, because
yeah.
you walk past the headstone, and you, like you say, you wonder what their life was, and then
Yeah.
you could actually scan it and see videos or
And see a little bit, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people-
For a single grave site, a single plot, and cremation burials, for couples, both of them going to be cremated. I don't know if every cemetery will allow it, but if you plan the spacing of the urns, you can put two side by side, if
Correct.
that's the wish of couple.
Yep, yep.
And then you still have more if you look that way.
Yeah, so really truly in a grave, whether there's a full burial or no full burial at all, there's a lot of room, right? So your traditional grave is 4 foot by 10 foot. Every cemetery different, but that's a good average. You can fit, if you really try to put as many cremations as you wanted, you could fit a lot, right? But that's exactly why cemeteries have these regulations. So traditionally for every burial that occurs, whether it be cremation or a full body, the cemetery receives a small fee. right? So that helps kind of, keep the cemetery paying their bills, things like that. That allows them to kind of, still be active for the continuing time. And there has to be some regulation, otherwise people would, put a bunch, and then you're not selling any more graves because people are just putting 20 people in one single grave. There are reasons for all of that, but if you really tried to fit as many cremations as you wanted, you could fit a lot. But that's why they have, those regulations for various reasons that are important to the cemetery.
So, in regards to customizing, personalizing your service, as we've all mentioned, it is something we love to do. This is actually at Sweets. I know both of you guys have actually done this. You walk into the funeral home generally, and there's a standard set. It doesn't have to be that way. This one right here was actually set up as an art gallery. The gentleman was a paint artist. That room was filled wall to wall with paintings. We even took our own pictures off the wall to put his up. So, as we mentioned, we love it. It's something, we enjoy hearing your story. We enjoy learning about you, whether it's you or your loved one. So share that with us. Allow us to help you. I still get emails, as you mentioned, from this lady telling me how amazing it was that we were able to do that. Likewise, on the right-hand side, the guy was a golfer. Okay, let's change it up. It doesn't always have to be flowers and standard setups. So they wanted it to look like he was on the golf course. I said, that's great, let's do it. Likewise, at the bottom is an urn. Many urns, caskets, as you mentioned, can be engraved, personalized. All you have to do is ask, make a mention of it. We're willing to work. And lastly, you saw the Ghostbusters, but there's another example, flowers. You can always change it up. I know a lot of florists in this area, just like you guys do. They like to let their imagination run a little wild too. It just depends what you want to do.
And we're not florists.
No.
We work with lots of florists, so we're happy to help recommend things, or even call the florist for you to kind of give them an idea of what you want to work with. And when you're having calling hours or a service at the funeral home, you're renting the area, so make it a space that's comfortable for you and your family.
Make it yours.
In the future, is there any ideas of what the big changes or what?
I think the biggest change we've seen is a lot more people are being cremated. I know I handle a lot more cremations. I think, yeah.
Cremations have been more steady, but like I said, we still value or look at the value of having something, whether it's here at a church, at our funeral home, or even at your own house. We see the value in doing something, as the first slide said, to celebrate your loved one, to have a service, whether it's even just a bunch of people that you're friends with, to share stories, memories. That's the biggest part that we still encourage people to do, whether you're being cremated and taken home, buried, however you want to do it. That's our biggest takeaway, is to do something that would celebrate the life lived.
And if you don't want to have something at the funeral home or a church, but say a restaurant, but your family isn't sure where to go, we're locals. We work with a lot of different places. We know a lot of places we can recommend that accommodate certain amounts of people if you're looking for something a little bit more relaxed.
Lastly, just a couple more different examples for people to see and like I said, get your mind kind of flowing. Different setups, different looks. A couple of these I'm sure you guys have done, cookie jars for urns. At the bottom speaks to you guys, just a customized example of a headstone. And just another example of making the funeral home yours, changing it up a little.
I have an off-topic,
Go ahead.
something to say. Something off-topic, but an issue or kind of concern. In regards to funeral arrangements, the person, of course, if you come in and make your wishes known, that's great, but one of the questions we will ask, and who's in charge of your funeral arrangements, is we're established, us as funeral directors, we're required to go through a New York State hierarchy. They've established a hierarchy of who is supposed to be in charge of someone's funeral arrangements. So what happens, someone passes, We look at the hierarchy established and we find the person highest up on the list, and that is the person eligible to make these decisions. So in regards to cremation, there's a number of cremation authorizations that need to be signed. The person eligible to sign that would be the person highest up on that hierarchy, things like that. The family structure today is not what it was, you know, at one time. A lot of times maybe a spouse has passed, maybe you didn't have any children, maybe your siblings live far away and they're elderly, right? A lot of times folks come in and they have nobody. They might have a good friend, you know, a church mate, things like that. That's great, but in regards to us as a funeral director kind of carrying out those wishes and trying to stay legal with it to protect ourselves and protect you and protect whoever might be signing, we are obligated to follow that hierarchy, right? So if you have children that might be estranged for whatever reason, technically if your spouse has not survived, they would be the ones that need to sign off on these authorizations, yes.
Is that even if you have a will?
Correct,
You
yep.
have to follow the state?
Yes, so
That sounds insane.
there are,
I'm dealing with
oh,
one
yeah.
right now.
yeah.
That sounds
I'm-
crazy.
I'm currently dealing with a situation right now, okay? This gentleman has no family. He has a will. In order for us to take charge, that person in the will needs to be appointed by the surrogate court in Dutchess County, provide all proper documentation to say she is the executor, get appointed, then she can come back to me. It's been a month.
Wow.
So, yes, a will is great.
That's
A will is
horrible, the
fantastic.
state.
We have
So
some-
going off of that, with that conversation, when someone comes in and they express that, there is one thing that we can do. We can establish what they call an agent, a funeral agent. It's a simple form with 2 witnesses, and you can establish a friend with a successor, so maybe 2 close friends, God forbid something happened to the first friend, or a relative of whatever, and we keep that on file.
And
It
that's
doesn't
until the state goes
yeah,
second?
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that trumps
Wow.
everything. That trumps any children's decision, an agent trumps everything. So as long as we have that form on file and that person is able to act competently, they can sign the authorizations, they can do all of that. Going along the will, right, a lot of people say, oh, they made their wishes known in their will. That's the same issue. That's great, and it definitely supports once we're ready to make that step, that the person wanted cremation and things like that, but that is not enough for us to act accordingly in an efficient manner, you know, to allow for the cremation to happen as it should. You know, it might delay things to kind of unlock the will and you know, the person and the specific arrangements. So that's another thing in regards to pre-planning. If you find yourself or if you know someone else, that's one of the kind of biggest challenges that we face that not many people know is possible. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors. That's one of the things, if you think someone else might be in that situation, encourage them to kind of fill out that form.
So if you die, they're going to punish you because you didn't tell them you're going to die.
Correct. Yes. Yep. Yep.
All right. As we come to the end, we've given you guys a lot of information today. So what do you do with it? All right, well, talk with your family. As I said before, you can call us up at any time. We're always available, but talk with your family. They're going to want to know what you're thinking. What are your plans? What do you want to do? That's always the best thing to do. Express you want to set something up with a funeral home. Maybe you want to use Jones Smith Funeral Home, and they're saying, no, I don't want you to go there, I want you to go here. Talk with them. Why? Is there a reason? Maybe you have a likeness for one over the other, and maybe they do too. Always have that talk with your family. Next, meet with the funeral home. Call us up. We'll schedule time. Just pick it out. Like I said, all of us are willing to do this. If we weren't, we wouldn't be here trying to encourage people to do this. So you guys kind of tailor off.
Yeah, no, it's a simple conversation. A lot of times people are afraid of the conversation that would have, but it's truly meeting us in our office or in, a coffee shop or even at your own home if you're more comfortable. And it's easy. We talk through things. Every single time after pre-arrangements, folks are like, wow, I am so happy. That was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. And I say, yes, it is. We're having a conversation. I enjoy getting to know, folks in our community a little bit better for my own knowledge, not even, funeral based, but then I see them out and about and it's just a kind of a beautiful connection. But every single time across the board, wow, that was much easier than I thought it was going to be. And that's just it. While you're willing and able to have that conversation, spend a half an hour with us. Right? Ask the questions that are important to you, get your wishes down, and then we can kind of talk about the next steps and kind of solidifying those wishes.
And we're happy to help you talk to your family. If you meet with us first and then you just want another person there, an outsider there to let your family know, okay, this is what we wrote down, this is what the plan is, so when the time comes you give us a call and we'll take care of it. We're happy to do that for you. So I want to go back because you had a question before.